Matt. I'd like to call to order the Transportation Authority Calhoun County January 27, 2026 meeting together. And Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Tom Tarkowitz.
Here.
Dr. Paul Watson.
Here.
Vivian Davis here. Amy Evans.
Here.
Maya Williams.
Here.
Janesha Morris.
Here.
Eric Stewart.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay. Eric Stewart could not make it today, and so he's asked me to fill in. So first of all, we'd like to get an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. What we're going to be doing for the audience, thank you all for coming. We're going to have a presentation from Mallory Avis. It'll be on the screens. This is also being recorded and is it live on YouTube, Mallory? Or
It is not live, but it'll be posted within the hour.
It'll be posted after when we're done. So let's start with a presentation from Mallory. This is basically to talk about the fare structure that has been developed. So Mallory, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Let me start sharing my screen. Hold on 1 second. No, hold on. There we go. Okay, thank you everybody for coming today. The purpose of today's public hearing is to discuss Ride Calhoun's fare proposal. But before we opened the public hearing, I wanted to give a little bit of background and information about the fares, what got us here, and why we're discussing this. I've provided to the public, as well as on our website, will be posted this presentation from today, as well as a list of frequently asked questions. And that list of frequently asked questions can be a living document that continues to grow as we have this public feedback and dialogue with our communities about what our proposal is and what the community's feedback is to that proposal. So the first question would be, why is the fare changing? And I think the important thing to understand as we go through this process is that Ride Calhoun has inherited or taken over operations of what were two existing systems, Marshall Dial-A-Ride and Battle Creek Transit. And between those two systems, they had multiple different types of services with multiple different types of fares. And those fares range from 85 cents to $15, depending on the mode of service and the system within that mode. And we are trying to establish a unified fare structure that falls under the authority. So if we look at what the current fares look like on, again, only looking at the demand responsive services, BC Go was mileage based. And so those fares ranged from $3 to $15 based on mileage. Marshall Dial-A-Ride had in-town fares, out-of-town fares, and those fares ranged primarily from $1.50 to $4. And then there was the Albion Marshall Connector, where fares were $1 to $2. In this proposal, really the only impact to passengers is going to be on that RC Flex service, the microtransit on-demand or demand-responsive service. We are not proposing a fare change to the existing RC Max and RC Move service. So the existing fixed route service and the existing paratransit service has no proposed change other than one small expanded opportunity for veterans to be eligible for reduced fare. So if we look at the fixed route service, RC Max, we're proposing to maintain that $1.75 single ride fare with 85 cents as the reduced fare. free transfers, free children 8 and under, maintain those existing multi-ride pass discounts, maintain those existing discounts for qualified human service agencies and organizations that buy passes on behalf of their passengers or customers, and then expand that reduced fare eligibility to include veterans. For paratransit service, again, the proposal is to maintain that $3 single ride, free personal care attendant, and then a $3 companion. So for example, if a companion is traveling with an ADA certified passenger, that person would pay the same fare that the ADA passenger is paying. And that RC Move service, keep in mind, is our complimentary ADA paratransit, which services 3/4 of a mile from fixed route bus stops. So that service is going to be in the city of Battle Creek and Springfield. And then the biggest change that we are proposing is to the on-demand or demand responsive service, which is RC Flex. And RC Flex is what is replacing Marshall Dial-A-Ride and BC Go. Our proposal here is wait for a reaction, a $6, $8, $10 fare, with reduced fares being $3, $4, or $5. So if we think of our city based on our previous discussions as a board, we think of our service area as zones, with Battle Creek and Springfield being a singular zone, and then Marshall and Albion being their own zones. A within zone trip is that $6 or $3. A zone that goes directly from one zone to the other, so a 2-zone fare, would be the $8 or $4. And then a zone through zone, so you're traveling through a zone to get to another zone, for example, from Battle Creek to Albion or Albion to Battle Creek, that would be the $10 or $5 fare. Now, as part of that fare structure, we as a board have discussed eligibility for reduced fares being seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, and then we've expanded that reduced fare eligibility to be residents of the TACC service area. So residents of Battle Creek, Marshall, Albion, and Springfield would pay only those reduced fares, the $3, $4, $5 rate that we're looking at. The chart in the bottom right-hand corner gives an example of what it would look like to travel between those zones. So for example, if your trip is in Albion and it stays in Albion, that would be a $3 trip. If your trip is from Battle Creek to Albion, that would be $5. And if you were a Marshall resident going to Albion or Battle Creek, that would be $4. If you're staying within the city of Marshall, that would be $3. If we kind of compare all of that together from what it looked like before, this is kind of a baseline in the middle of what all of the fares previously were. And so we've just put them together from the BC Go, Marshall Dial-A-Ride, and Albion Marshall Connector compared to the proposal under RC Flex. Now, one thing to note, and I've indicated it on this slide, it was very important to us and to the board that we consider families traveling together and that we make it affordable for families to travel together. We have proposed a fare structure where children 13 and under would be free on RC Flex. We are working with our technology provider on how we can implement that proposal, but also noting that that service may be restricted based on vehicle type and vehicle availability. So not all vehicles are able to accommodate small children that may need a car seat or a booster seat. And as we work through that as a staff, we're working with the National Child Passenger Safety Board to get certified for our drivers and our supervisors to be able to install and evaluate car seats so that we can transport small children. However, on our cutaway style vehicles, car seats or booster seats are not required, and so we can maybe accommodate them on those vehicles. But our small minivans, we wouldn't be able to at this time. So although we have a free child fare in there, there is some limitation as it stands today for our ability to meet that. I wanted to give some trip examples to compare what the current cost is under Marshall Dial-A-Ride, BC Go, or the Albion Marshall Connector, compared to what that same trip would be on RC Flex. And so if we just took a few examples here, a Springfield senior traveling from home to their preferred grocery store, obviously that's not available on the Albion Marshall Connector or Marshall Dial-A-Ride. Under BC Go, that same trip would have been $5. Under the proposed RC Flex fare, that would be $3. A Battle Creek worker traveling from Denso to their home, again, not available on the Albion Marshall Connector, not available on Marshall Dial-A-Ride. BC Go would have been a $5 trip, and RC Flex would be a $3 trip. A Marshall senior traveling from their home at the Marshall House to their grocery store here in Marshall, the family fare, that is not an Albion Marshall Connector trip, but under Marshall Dial-A-Ride, that trip would have been $1.50. BC Go, that same trip would have been $3, and on RC Flex, that fare would be $3. An Albion student traveling from their home in Albion to KCC, that is not a trip that's available under the AMC or Marshall Dial-A-Ride. On BC Go, that trip would have been $15. On RC Flex, that fare would be $5. Continuing on, an Albion worker traveling from home to Oak Lawn Hospital in Marshall. On the Albion Marshall Connector, that trip would be $4. Marshall Dial-A-Ride, that's not a trip that they'd complete. BC Go would have been $7, and RC Flex, the proposal is $4. A Marshall worker traveling from their home to the Blue Oval Battery Park. On the Albion Marshall Connector, that's not a trip that vehicle would do. Marshall Dial-A-Ride, that would be a $3 trip. BC Go, that would be a $3 trip. And RC Flex, that would be a $3 trip. A Marshall senior traveling from home to Bronson Outpatient Center in Battle Creek, that's not a trip that would have been available under the AMC or Marshall Dial-A-Ride. On BC Go, that trip would be $10, and under RC Flex, that trip would be $4. And then lastly, a Battle Creek student traveling from their home to Albion College. Again, not a trip that they would be able to complete on the AMC or Marshall Dial-A-Ride. On BC Go, it would have been $15, and on RC Flex, it would be $5. One thing I do want to note is that although the majority of the passengers would experience a reduction in their overall fare or trip cost, there is a population of passengers who would have a higher trip cost than what they're paying today. And, I don't want to gloss over that. However, I do want to say that we're talking about more than just the fares. So in exchange for the higher fare, we're also talking about increased service hours and additional availability. So Albion Marshall Connector right now runs 8:30 to 3:30 Monday through Friday. Marshall Dial-A-Ride 8 to 3:30 Monday through Friday. BC Go 5:15 to 7:30 Monday through Friday, which right now is the same as RC Flex, but our service scenario and our budget anticipates late night and weekend service. So somewhat of an exchange in the higher fare for increased availability, service hours, and days of the week, as well as enhanced technology and introducing an app, but also maintaining the ability to book over the phone and the expanded service area. So increasing the number of locations that the public can travel to or from. That is also a factor in the fare. So recognizing that residents in Marshall, for example, can now get to Battle Creek, and that it's not restricted to 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. One of the questions we get often is, why do we have to pay a fare at all? And we recognize the public sentiment around the millage and the property taxes that people are already paying for transportation services. However, keep in mind that the millage rate, as well as our budget, assumes a 7% fare box recovery. So the millage rate does reflect an assumption of some fare collection, even if it is a small amount of fare. Also, as part of the fiscal year 2026 budget, the state of Michigan added language specific to public transit. That language says, "It is the intent of the legislature that all transit agencies in this state should strive to achieve a fare box recovery rate of not less than 6%. And although that is not a strict requirement written into budget language, it is written intent of the legislature that we meet the 6% fare box requirement. Our budget is to meet 7% fare box recovery, and obviously a lot of that budgeting assumption is based on forecasting and modeling ridership for services that didn't previously exist. Under current legislation, millage revenues cannot be counted towards that fare box recovery rate, and so therefore we're required to charge fares at the fare box in order to meet that intent. The discounted fares, as we discussed, are available on RC Max, which is the fixed route service, and as well as the RC Flex. There are not reduced fares available on RC Move, the paratransit service, and that fare is just a flat $3. RC Max offers a reduced fare of 85 cents for a single one-way trip, and that reduced fare applies to the multi-ride passes. So if somebody buys, for example, a 12-ride pass, that 85-cent discount is applied to those passes as well. The RC Flex fare includes a 50% discount or a reduced fare. We've chosen to extend that eligibility to not only seniors and people with disabilities, but also to veterans, and then obviously the residents of the TACC service area, which would be the residents of Albion, Battle Creek, Marshall, and Springfield. There is also the ability to purchase wallet funds within the app that provides an additional discount to passengers. So for example, $50 for $60 in trip credit, or $25 for $30 in trip credit. As I mentioned, on RC Max, the discounted fare is eligible to seniors that are over 60, Medicare cardholders, people with disabilities, and veterans. On the RC Flex service, it would be those same populations, but adding the residents of the TACC service area. When does this take effect? Although we want to establish a unified fare structure and get things on kind of an equitable playing ground, there isn't an urgency. The board wants to make sure that we take the time to obtain public input and feedback on this. We had talked originally about the board potentially taking action in February, and we've decided to push that back to March to allow more opportunity for public feedback and to be able to schedule additional public hearings in the cities of Albion and Battle Creek. So one of the things that we will touch on at the end of this is some upcoming opportunities to provide feedback, and the board can choose to take action in March or continue to receive feedback until the meeting in April. And then at that time, we'll determine an implementation date so that the public has advance notice of when that fare would be changing. One of the questions we continue to get as we talk about this is what happens to the existing triptychs, tokens, mobile wallet funds that people already have for our services, and we're continuing to honor those. So individuals who have multi-ride passes or DART tokens can continue using all of those at their current fare rates that are already established by previously by Battle Creek Transit and Marshall Dial-A-Ride. And as we continue to work through the transition, we'll continue to communicate what that exchange may look like or what the implementation of a new fare media that is used across the entire system may look like. Right now, for example, the Marshall Dial-A-Ride tokens that they use are like poker chips, and those aren't accounted for on, say, BC Go. So establishing one fare media that people can use across the entire 4 cities. And then how can you pay your fare? So on RC Max and RC Move, those fares can be paid cash on board, exact fare, or you can purchase a multi-ride pass from Battle Creek City Hall, the Ride Calhoun office, or Full Blast in Battle Creek. Those ticket and pass sales are maintained in the city of Battle Creek because those services are primarily provided within the city of Battle Creek and the city of Springfield. And when we talk about RC Flex fares, there's an opportunity for people to load trip credits into their app or into their profile by calling and using a credit or debit card over the phone with our dispatch office, or by coming into our office with a credit or debit card and loading funds that way. And then, of course, there's always the opportunity to do it yourself within the app if you manage your own profile. RC Flex can also be paid in cash on board the vehicle in exact fare only. That is all I have for my presentation, unless the board has any questions. Yes.
Thank you. On the slide where you're comparing the fare structures, under RC Flex, it says children 13 and under, and then the print under the orange boxes references children under 13.
You are correct.
Sorry.
We established 13 and under are free.
Okay.
Our current terms of service say that a child under 13 must be accompanied by an adult, and they have to be 13 to ride independently. So we can adjust that language.
So,
For the fare to be 13 and under, include a 13-year-old.
so I think that's currently what it says now, that it's 13 and under. I guess I'm just trying to understand, does that mean a 13-year-old can travel alone and for free?
I think we would update our terms of service at that point to a 13-year-old, and the board could change that decision. We could establish that a 13-year-old is required to travel with an adult, or adjust the free fare to be under 13.
Okay, so it's going to be one or the other, either direction?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. I just noticed that students are not included in terms of reduced fare. For instance, a student going from Albion to Eastern Academic Center, is that a full fare, or is there a student rate, I guess?
If the student was a resident of the city of Albion, then they would qualify for that reduced fare.
Okay,
Yep. Eastern Academic Center, I believe, is outside of the TACC service boundaries, though. But they would be able to get to KCC in Battle Creek for $5.
not Eastern Academic Center?
I believe that's outside of the TACC service area, yes. They would be in a township that opted out. Yes. Yes.
Any other questions from the board at this time or comments before I open the public hearing? Before I open the public hearing, if you have something to say, this is the time. Please give us your name, your jurisdiction that you live, or the group you're representing. And so I'll open I don't have a gavel, so I can't bang it or anything like that. I'll open the public hearing at this time. If you come to the podium, again, like I said, we are getting recorded. And so please come forward. Isabel?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity in this open hearing. I'm Isabel Nazar from the Homer Township, which we opted out. And I want to explain that I'm also from the Albion-Homer area and a committee member of the senior millage allocation. On behalf of seniors in our area, in our county, and particularly low-income seniors, I want to advocate for your consideration in the lower fares across all routes and rides. And I see that your proposal does so. So I'm asking that you adopt your proposal. Something that came to my attention as a result of your presentation this morning, I'm looking at, as Vivian brought up earlier about students. It came to my attention, I just want to highlight something when I look at comparing trip costs. The round trip costs for a student would be $10 a day, and then per week, per month, that could potentially be a cost of $200 a month. That's pretty significant for students that have to travel from anywhere in the county to go to college or to go onto the, well, that's a different situation, but they're opted out. So please consider that also. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, and please don't be, Chuck.
Hi, I'm Chuck Asher. I live in 961 Glencroft Lane in Battle Creek. I'm really encouraged by the direction the TAC board's heading on fares. I mean, if you looked at, as great as BC Go was as a pilot, and it kind of set the tone for countywide demand service transportation, $15 one way from Albion to Battle Creek is not affordable for a senior who may want to go to Walmart or Meijer to buy more affordable groceries. So I'm really encouraged that you've lowered the standard fare to $10, but also you have a reduced fare for seniors, and I encourage you to adopt that. I'm chair of the Senior Millage Allocation Committee. I worked with Community Action for years, mostly in countywide senior services. A lot of that was in transportation. I have a fairly good understanding of the transportation needs of seniors all through the county. And I've been a senior for 11 years now, so I have some experience. So you're doing good work. You've done amazing things. I appreciate everything you've done. And just keep moving in the direction of making it more affordable and more sustainable for seniors. So thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Next. I know it's early in the morning, so let's. I want to give you ample time, so. Seeing and hearing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And Mallory, there was a couple more slides that were
Yes.
those just, and after,
Yes.
Mallory just has a couple closing slides.
Let it pop up.
There you go.
So for, kind of a full circle, we will make sure that this meeting is being recorded. It'll be posted to our YouTube channel. It'll also be shared on our Facebook page. Again, we're not trying to shy away from any public comments. We're trying to reach the public wherever we can. And we will be scheduling additional public hearings. So we are working to schedule a public hearing in Albion. I'll be working with Vivian to identify a date, time, and location. And then we will be adding a public hearing to the upcoming board meeting on February 11th in Battle Creek. That'll be at the Ride Calhoun Administration Offices, which is 49 South Cass Street, the old Sullivan Barn, at 5:30 p.m. Again, that's February 11th. And then also, you're welcome to provide public comment or feedback via email. It's info@ridecalhoun.org, or directly in writing to the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County. Mailing address is 339 West Michigan Ave, Battle Creek, Michigan, 49037.
Okay, thank you. As part of a public meeting, we also take general public comment. So if there's any public comment you'd like to share with the board, this is your opportunity to do that. Yes.
Question. I don't see board comments, and I have one. When would that be appropriate to, could I do it now?
Let's
or-
do the general public comment, and then we'll do board comments, So any public comments? Appreciate you coming out on a cold day, and again, that's why Ride Calhoun is here, is to help people on those cold days and when the car doesn't start or the plans change to when your kids can't go to school and you need to get them to a daycare. So again, thank you for coming out. And with that said, we'll take board comments.
Thank you for developing this and working so hard on it. I really appreciate all the time and effort that's been put into it. I also wanted to mention to the rest of the board and to everyone that's here, last Friday, there was an accounting software project closeout meeting, and I attended it. And there were 115 hours budgeted for that project, and Mallory and Christy completed it, meaning they learned the software in 49 hours of 115 hours, which is 42.6% that was budgeted. They saved us 57.4% of that budget. So I just want people to know that there's a lot of hard work happening, and they are being very efficient, effective. They're very competent, capable, and I so appreciate all of the work that you guys are doing. It's really incredible, and every time I see Ride Calhoun, I get excited. Whether it be a billboard, or a vehicle, or so. Thank you, and I just thought everybody should know how great they're doing.
Awesome work, ladies and team. Yes.
Really quick comment. So I know we had given a lot of feedback when we talked about the fees, the fare structure with regards to families, with regard to entertainment. I appreciate the due process in trying to get the certification ready for the car seats. I know that came up from the public. So I know we're still working on that. So I'm pleased to know we're heading that direction. Also, the fact, one of the key things that we talked about at one point was trying to make sure, because you've got a double dichotomy, right? You've got to try to make things as affordable as possible, but yet run a high-class, high-quality organization where folks feel it's not a stigma to ride public transportation. Growing up, I rode it my whole life. That's how I went to school, a different country, but different system, but still the same thing. So I just want to give you kudos for the structure. I 100% get it. I know from our institution, one of the ways we're going to try to also do this is we have a foundation. I think one of the things we've talked about is working with either local organizations or foundations to really help to offset that. I do know, as a lot of our students it will still seem as if the current fare is high, but I know that we've done everything to lower it as much as we could. And I think this is where folks and foundations have a part to play to help keep that cost down even further. So I just thank you all for, I think, listening to a lot of public comment from the board to try to make sure we balance the coin really well, right? To make sure quality, opportunities, but also be dependable, be reliable, making sure the organization can be sustained over time, because our goal is not for this to be really great for 2-3 years. The goal is for this to be around for a long time. And I keep on, and you've heard me say this before, a lot of folks continue to watch what we're doing, because what we're doing is pretty unique. I really, and I've said this before, I do hope several of the townships join in, that opportunity is still always there for them to join in, because there's a lot of other connecting pieces that still need to be connected, I think, by this service. And, because I'm kind of biased, I think the EAC, which is an offshoot of KCC, is a great space to do that, but we can't go outside of our operating boundaries. So just thank you to the whole team at this point, and I know this body really appreciates the work that you all have done.
Thank you.
Vivian, did you have something?
Yes, I agree with what my colleagues have said. Of course, I have my passions, but you have to overlook me sometimes. But, I think you've done a good job, a great job, and the telecast was very good. As a matter of fact, I sat and listened to the whole thing, so that was very inspiring, and the good things are, especially the technology. I don't think people realize the quality of the technology is coming as well. So I know that there is more work to be done, and in terms of meeting the needs, but I want to say thank you for what you do, because you do it well.
Thank you.
Vivian brought it up. Will you go ahead and maybe share about the podcast? Because I thought that was great half hour.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to sit down with Richard Pyatt, which is the Community Matters podcast. I believe the website is battlecreekpodcast.org. And we talked about transit and the things that are happening within Ride Calhoun, both right now and then planned for the future. I think Dr. Watson kind of hit the nail on the head, and my goal in all of this is not just to expand service, right? For me, this is about equity and access to our communities and getting people to participate in their community, participate in their local government, seek employment, education, healthcare, but also for the general public and for the people who think that public transit maybe isn't for them to see or experience a vehicle or a service that is cool, right? It isn't what most people have in their mind about public transit. A lot of this service operates just like Uber or Lyft that you would use in any other large city, and we're excited for the changes that are coming. So if you have about half an hour and you want to listen to that podcast, I think it's pretty informative, and it's available on Facebook or on the battlecreekpodcast.org. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, our next meeting is February 11th in Battle Creek at 49 South Cass at 5:30 in the evening. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are now adjourned. Thank you all. Drive carefully going home, and some have longer drives